Your young kids need to dream big, and don't let someone kind of like, tell you that you can't do X, Y, and Z, because they can't. I'm Freddy Bob-Jones, currently working as the Director for Operations in the International Planned Parenthood Federation, which is an international NGO, headquartered out of the UK. So it's a federation that spans about 169 countries, focused on sexual reproductive health, interventions, family planning. Basically, that's a sort of headline summary of what they do. They do other things as well, but that's the main thing that they do. So essentially, what the objective of the program is to enable women to have more choice and options to live their lives when it comes to sexual reproductive health. If they decide they want to have kids, at a certain age, fine. But if something happens and they don't want to have kids, then they have those options to draw down on from the program. A lot of these things, even for someone who's worked in the sector for the amount of time I've worked in the sector, you don't really kind of get to understand the issues until you actually get involved in something like this, where you can go into the field, like I did last year. I went to Mozambique, went to Uganda. You go into the field and you see what happens when people don't have access to family planning. You just see it. I mean, they were literally, we went to a village and there were kids everywhere, man, like literally, like oceans of kids. And this happened because like a lot of folks just don't have access to information and also the means to try and plan their families. And so what happens is, a woman will have six to 8 kids because she can't just stop having kids because she doesn't know how to sort of control that or plan for it. I didn't grow up in the UK as a Black person. I grew up in Africa as an African and was raised as an African. And it was interesting because in that sort of society and culture where I was raised, it was very, education was kind of like, it was very valued and prized. And, I was in an environment where, competition between my peers was actively encouraged by parents and teachers and stuff. And if you didn't sort of come in the sort of top 10 in your class, you were like deemed to be an ultimate failure. So there's a lot of incentives to kind of compete heavily, and so, there wasn't that sort of thing where if you're studying a lot, you'd be seen as a bit of a nerd and sort of ostracized, socially in the playground and all that kind of stuff. You just didn't have that. First of all, I think going to university, university is not for everyone, right? There are some folks who are more kind of like practical minded and might be more sort of focused on doing vocational type of stuff, and that's great. That's fine. But I think if you decide to go to university or go into a more vocational field, the one thing I'd say, it's good to have, I'd really sort of recommend people doing some kind of work experience to experience what that industry is like before you kind of make that commitment to either spend 3 or 4 years studying a subject which gets into that space or not. Because one of the things which I didn't tell you about, I had to take a year out before going to university, because even though I was born in the UK at the time, I think at the time university was still free, but you had to have been back in the UK for 3 years prior to going to university. So I had to take 1 year out just to complete those 3 years. And for that year, I actually worked in a legal firm. Nothing major in terms of like responsibility, but it actually gave me, first line of sight, seeing how lawyers work, kind of pressures that they were under, and some of the, the sort of the realities of the working life. And I feel, I know a lot of folks do sort of do work experience, but yeah, having that opportunity to do that before they actually commit to a university or vocational course would be kind of cool. As a Black person in the UK, I mean, obviously we don't have it as really bad as some folks in the US, but you will face knockbacks. You know, it does help sometimes to have that kind of sort of fallback network, if you want to call it that. Yeah. So, you know, like your family, your close friends who are going to sort of hold you up when you kind of get those hits, you know, when you've sent in like, you know, the 20th job application and you're like, yep, we haven't got something for you. You know, how do you keep going on? You have to keep going. And that's kind of how I did it in the early stages. I mean, I got knocked back a lot, but, you know, I knew I wanted to join DFID. You know, I would also recommend that young folks try and broaden their horizons. Even if you can't sort of get on a plane and visit countries and stuff, read a lot. You know, it's quite easy to get a lot of good information online. Even though there's a lot of spam out there, there's still a lot of freely available quality information just to expand your horizon. And, you know, one of the things which I've realized in the various countries I've been to and stuff I've read, you know, a lot of the world have life quite tough, right? A lot of the world, like millions and billions of folks. And a lot of folks in the UK, even minorities who might be poor relative in the UK society, still have good opportunities and chances. They might not think they do, but they do, compared to others, right? And so that's kind of where, you know, when I get knocked back and stuff doesn't go how I planned it for it to go, I kind of think back and think to myself, from a relative perspective, you know, I've got a British passport, I've got access to stuff in the UK. Yeah, I might not be accessing all the opportunities like Prince Harry or something, but compared to some kid in a village in Uganda or Kenya or something, my opportunity set is quite larger compared to them. You need to sort of keep a sense of perspective, yeah. And when the things don't go your way, try and sort of just think about that and just keep pushing it forward. That's kind of how, that's the sort of mental trick that I use with myself, really, to kind of just keep going.